way back in ancient days, on this planet, there was a deliberate lie that was put forward. And what was it put forward for? For their own advantage. And what it was is that we were their slaves. And they needed us to breed. Oh my goodness, friends, this is the truth. Just look at the law of Moses. It is about slavery. It is about property rights. I was telling somebody the other day, in the Old Testament, there was no law against rape. I know a lot of you go, oh, Dave, now, I got a scripture right here that says don't rape. No, it doesn't. Read it carefully. A man could go out and take a woman and even against her will. And all the punishment was that he had to marry her, and if she didn't want to marry him, then he had to pay her father so many shekels of silver. Because you see, she was property, and her father owned her, and if you were going to take her virginity, you had to pay it. Because now he couldn't get as big a price for her as if she had been when she was a virgin. So, it was about property. And so women were property. And this was a breeding program. There were direct bloodlines that these extraterrestrial beings wanted to have power over. It was the genetic structure. And it was primarily the women, friends. Now, there's still some sort of latent genetic code that makes females, have this idea that there's got to be some sort of monogamy. This was because it was instilled into the women. They would be stoned if they even looked at another man. They'd be stoned. And it didn't matter, if the male went around and did his thing. He could have as many women as he wanted, because you see, that didn't bother the breeding or the bloodline, because the child came through the woman. So it was very important that certain females never messed around. The child that was born had to have a pure bloodline. So after these genetic programs were finished, the genetic code started becoming more latent. And then this code that was in the females that predisposed them to this idea of monogamy and gave them these emotions of fear. It's still active in people today, even though we don't even believe in it anymore. People are running around, and no one in the United States, practically no one, is monogamous. And those of you who say that you are, I want to know, can you count on your hands the number of women that you've actually been with? You probably cannot. So in the ancient times, these extraterrestrial gods, their method of control was fear and laws and punishments. And that was the trigger. So now in our day, there are various things that can trigger this fear. Disease, the fear of not getting the love you need or the love you want, or you're scared that your partner's not going to be monogamous, and then perhaps that you're not going to be important to them, and your identity is somehow lost because you've got to own that man, or he's got to own you. You want to be owned. You want to be a slave. It was drilled into you. It was conditioned into your mind. See, the biggest trigger is fear. Fear from lies that was instilled into your mind that you believe. So, there's been so much genetic mixing on this planet that the males even possess this code, this sort of genetic fear. It's even gotten into the males now. But it's a byproduct of this ancient times where all of these laws were made and the gods came down and they were angry and they demanded control and pure bloodlines. But you're just a victim. You can't heal yourself. You have to heal your relationships. You're not being You're not supposed to be in relationships, friends, because you are bought and sold or because you're under a law. We are the children, the heirs of our Father in heaven, and we are free. And we have to have what is called real love now. We cannot continually be controlled by this fear, this manipulation. It's not even love. In fact, it's the opposite of love. It's obsession. And it's a bad energy, friends, and we've got to come out of it. And I'm going to talk about this whether or not y'all stop listening to this channel or not, because it's the truth. And I'm being told I must tell you the truth. You haven't heard the truth in a long time. You're scared to death of the truth. It makes you scared. So scared you don't even feel like you're allowed to listen to what I'm having to say. You're scared. You should just maybe turn me off right now. I know. A lot of you are the new people who have just started watching these videos that I'm making. You're scared out of your mind. You think something inside you is telling you got to shut this off. You're going to be exposed to some stuff that you're not going to be able to recover from. But it's deliberate genetic manipulation by ancient extraterrestrials that came to this planet, friends. And they wrote a law and they forced you and they scared you and they said you're going to burn in hell forever and ever if you didn't do what they say. And you women, you've got to keep yourself veiled and do everything your husband tells you because he's your owner. So there was the divine right of the kings. And it comes from the same basic thing that we've been talking about. It's genetic programs that were put on this earth, and these are these bloodlines that we have going on. You see today how you have a last name? Have you ever wondered why you have a last name? What difference does it make? My mother's name is McConaughey. Why do I care? That was about 1,000 years ago. I don't know those people. But you see, it was important that we were taught we had to keep track of this bloodline. And therefore, when you were born, you took their name, you got their, do you know that it says in the Bible, in the New Testament, I was telling this to someone the other day, and it just blew their mind because you've never been told, none of you out there have ever been told the truth. But it says right there in the New Testament that we are not supposed to keep track of our genealogy. That's something that Jews do, and we don't do that. We're Christians. 1 Timothy 1:4 talks about these endless genealogies, which does not lead to furthering our faith or the truth. So, some of you have heard some of the videos that I've done about the bloodline of Jesus. This was a concerted effort to mix. This is the whole purpose for mankind. We came here millions of years ago. And a lot of you are worried about this. Well, if it's not the true El Elyon, our Father of heaven and earth, who created the physical body, then oh no, that just doesn't make sense. And I understand what you're thinking. It's like it's very confusing because you think then that, it's like, oh, the devil created us? No. This genetic manipulation that was done to us is us, ourselves. We came here, we made this body, genetically perfected it so that we could come here and incarnate and learn. But this is only a learning place. And so evolution was helped along. Why then were we put on this earth? Why are we here if we're not supposed to get involved with these genealogies? If we don't care what our ancestry was, then why did they do it? Why are we on this? Remember the story of Israel going down into Egypt. They were down there as slaves. They were working on these four-dimensional pyramids, this physical, material structure being ruled over by a hard taskmaster. This is us. We're all one of the 12 tribes, and we've all gone down into this realm, and we're experiencing this physical world here in Hades. The creation of the biogenetic structure. See, souls are not created. Beings are not created. The Lyrians and the Syrians were involved in genetic engineering. They were trying to look for this. They were trying to create a perfect vehicle, a body for themselves to incarnate into eventually. So it's kind of like building, anything. It's just a physical thing. Like you build a car. It's not you, but you get inside the car and it serves a purpose. It gets you from point A to point B. But once you get to your destination, you get out of the car, and the car was only a vehicle. So these extraterrestrial gods that were here, that are now fighting amongst themselves, they're us. See, this is how we bring this transformation and this integration of our spiritual being into the physical world, so that we can become more conscious and more aware of ourselves. You see, we're not a car, but if we get in a car, we're able to see more things. We're able to go more places. It's a vehicle to achieve our goal. And so that's all this body is. And the genetic makeup of the body was simply designing this vehicle to do the things that we wanted it to do. But, you see, if I create this laptop, I can't say that my Father in Heaven created it. Oh, sure, the materials that I used, I could not create those. I don't create the physical universe, but I take the universe and I manipulate it, and I can take a chisel to a rock and make that rock into a shape. I can put sticks together and build a house. I built the house with the wisdom I was given from my Father. So basically, this genetic manipulation is just a part of evolution. It's we are the children of our Father in Heaven, and we're evolving down through and transmigrating and reincarnating and going down through the steps of time. And with our own wisdom that we were given by our Father in Heaven, we are making cars so that we can get from point A to point B. We are creating genetically, trying to discover what's going on in our cells and why we are getting sick, and trying to understand what things we can eat to live longer, and how can we, get rid of disease. These are things that we as humans do, but there's nothing we can do to take the soul from its proper place, because that belongs to our Father in Heaven. So in terms of actual genetic work, these indigenous earthly species upon the earth that they used were genetically modified as vehicles for these gods that wanted to incarnate upon the earth. They were the indigenous beings upon their own respective planets that had evolved to a place where they wanted to experience more. And so they used genetics and inserted their own genetic manipulation to speed up the process of evolution. You see, they thought they were creating utopian, a one-world government. Oh, wow, it's going to be great. And yet, all they were doing was creating the great enslavement of mankind, the great illusion, you see, the great maze that we had to work our way out of. that led us to this insanity that we are here at the ninth gate now. So they prepared vehicles, and even though it may seem fantastic to many of us and almost blasphemous, I'm sure blasphemous to most of you, it's still the truth. To this very day, you say, "Well, our Father in heaven would never allow this. This is blasphemy. God wouldn't allow this." What are you talking about? Well, why then does our Father in heaven allow us today to hybridize plants on this planet? You see, that is proof that we are allowed to mess with the genes. We're doing it right now. We are actually manipulating the genetic code. It's been done for thousands of years, and we're now getting the technology, even on Earth, to do this very thing. It's just a part of evolution. Sort of an outside stimulus. And there was this infusion of this extraterrestrial genetics into the basic. See, they didn't. It's not like they can go to some far off place in the universe, in the galaxy, and take some odd strain of creature and mix it. Even on Earth, there's a certain limit. One can take certain, like dogs and cats cannot breed. But there are certain kinds of bears that are very closely related that can breed. You've got to stay within the laws of the universe. So, the indigenous beings upon this earth were not far. They're the same basic indigenous beings that came to the planet, though more highly advanced, but they were still ancestors and they were still brothers. Because remember what we said, millions of years prior to this event, they had been colonized by vegans. And so these vegans also colonized the Syrians. And millions of years went by, and the Syrians evolved and grew and came to Earth and found these indigenous peoples, but they were their own brothers. You see, friends, I know this sounds just absolutely amazing and contradictory and foolish and wrong, and perhaps even gives you a sickening feeling within yourself. And yet, please listen to what I'm saying. We have already established that you are the children of the living divine being. That is your nature. You are the creator. But yet, that does not mean that you're going to create the universe. It means that you are a procreator. All right? We have the divine blueprint. We're able to do this creation. Our mind has imagination. We can make cars and we can manipulate a lot of things. We can take sticks and build houses, and sometimes we can build some beautiful ones and some houses that reach to the sky, and towers of Babel that almost reach to the heavens. But we're not quite ready to be exactly like our Father in heaven. We've got to go through class. See, this is all being done on purpose. Our Father in heaven's allowing us to make our own little abode here. He's giving us instructions on how to do it in the reality. You see, one day we're going to grow up and we're going to really make worlds. We're going to go off in yonder heavens, and there we're going to begin to create our own little universe. Well, what kind of a classroom does a God actually need to go through? This is experimental, real, on-the-job learning. All right, you make these cars and you keep designing these cars until you get one that just doesn't have breakdown and gets better gas mileage, and then all of a sudden you find out, we're using the wrong materials, we're polluting the earth, so now we got to make electric cars, and we got to use clean energy, and we're beginning to learn that we have to do things very carefully, because you see there are consequences to our actions. This is what we have to learn, but we are on the way far into the scale of learning here. You see, when we were just going through the bird, stage. All we had to do was learn to be, to spread our wings and fly, to nurture our young, and to just enjoy the wind beneath our wings. You see, it didn't take long to learn that, and we really, really enjoyed that. But at that point, we didn't have a lot of conscious behavior. We didn't have a lot of really, wisdom and consciousness and understanding of who we really are, or who we really were going to be one day. We weren't yet made into this little microcosm just like our Father in heaven. We had not yet become a child of a living Father. We were like, similar to, you might think of ants. An individual ant is more like, he's not really a soul, a complete microcosm. He's not a whole yet. He's part of the whole. One ant is just part of the entire ant population. And you might say that entire ant population works as a whole. And that soul, the ant soul, is sort of sharing the whole ant farm. As they evolve, they become individuals. This is one thing that we've learned way in the past. When we became individuals, when we became dogs, we began to, have a little bit more awareness of who we were, and we had these little families and little, took better care of our pups and began to understand a little bit of individuality and protectionism, and we moved on up into various primate orders and so forth until we became the child of the Divine One. Once we achieve that, that's where we're at. But as the children of our Father in heaven, which is where we're at now, we still are not, we still haven't graduated. We still haven't got our wings. You see, we're still down here in Hades. We're close. We're getting close to the 9th gate, friends. And at this late stage in the game, we've got to start learning responsibility. We've got to start learning detachment. We can't, be sort of controlled by these ancient genetics that kept us breeding. We cannot still be controlled by this inner carnal, fleshly genetics that kept us and keeps us bound in this classroom. What we're doing here is learning the results of our actions. And what are the results? The results are we've got to have dominion. We've got to conquer. We've got to ride this donkey into Jerusalem, because we've got to have the mastery. But before you get the mastery, you make lots of mistakes. And there were lots of mistakes that were made. There were many wars and many problems that went on. But our Father in heaven had us throughout this entire time, watching over us. The angels that were from the higher realms came down here, and they looked after us. And they never let anything go so wrong. They only allowed all of this that we're doing to be done in this little quarantine bubble, in this little branch of the galaxy called the Orion Arm that wasn't even attached to the rest of the galaxy that we call the Sagittarian Arm or the Perseus Arm. It was kind of a little area that's kind of a little removed. It's like a little bridge. And in between that little bridge, you see, there are a lot of things that kind of went on that our Father in heaven was watching over to make sure that everything went smooth. See, he was going to give these students in this class of all the ingredients to make dynamite. All right, and if anybody blew up the classroom, well, it was just one of those things that they understood could happen. This is part of learning. So they had special gear and goggles and there are certain things built into us that makes it okay. That's why we reincarnate. We get another chance. We try it again. We try it again. We overcome the past mistakes. That's why we're here, friends. Because you see, when we finally reach our destination, we're no longer going to keep reincarnating. We're going to live forever, because then we're going to have become responsible children of our Father in heaven, ready for the big league. And we're almost there, friends. But now think about this, friends. I know, see, now we're going to get down right to the crux of the matter here. What you're thinking, what you've been taught to think, is that Father in heaven creates the universe. He created you, put you inside the universe, gave you all these rules, and you better keep them, and do what he says or he'll send you to hell. That's part of what you were taught. You were also taught that forever and ever and ever you're going to live in his world by his rules. All right. It even sounds, you're already getting nervous, right? Like, uh-oh, what's he going to say next? But friends, what I'm about to say is that you are an individual. You are free. You're free indeed. Not only to not be a slave, but you're not going to be a slave to your own thoughts, to your own surrounding. You can have anything you want. You say it, you mention it, you claim it, it's there, it's yours. You are the creator of your surroundings. See, right now we're just messing around with mechanics. See, we've gotten to the point now where we realize E equals MC squared, that energy is transformed into matter, and all this creation is just an illusion. We can make it our own. We can create the universe we want to live in. We can create our own world, but we're not ready yet. But we're getting there. We're on that journey. We're learning to manipulate material things. You see, we're supposed to create our own world. The education you've been getting is in your spirit to become a person. What is it to become a child of the divine? What is it to be the divine? It's to be free, truly free. Not like a slave, nor like an animal that lives in its environment that was made for it. And it has all of these instinctual, lustful rules that it must continue to breed, and it's got to, function in this way or in that way. Look at dogs. They eat poop. See, we've got to get beyond that. That's their genetic makeup making them do these things. We're not going to be enslaved to this genetic makeup. We're going to make our own world, friends. We're going to learn that we can take and tell that mountain to be uprooted and thrown into the sea, and it's going to obey us. You see, it's going to be, those words are going to be literally true. You say, I don't believe you, David. Well, I just quoted the scripture. You are going to create physical, amazing things that you can't even imagine right now. Friends, if you're going to be moving mountains with your command, calming the waves of the sea, why do you think Jesus got out of that boat and put his hands up in the air and said, "Be calm, winds," right in front of his disciples, and then looked at him and said, "Now, ye of little faith"? Why do you suppose he did that? Just to show how powerful he is? Show us all he's just a big shot? Oh, look at the waves even obey him. No, it was to show you that inner spiritual man within you, that is the one who's in control, asleep in the little boat. You have the power. So we're just messing around with atomic energy now. That's nothing. You see, because we haven't learned the calm part. We made all the waves, and we learned how to, do all kinds of destruction and nuclear bombs, but now we've got to learn calmness. See, now we got to say, okay, all of this destruction, be calm. No more war. Now we've got this last little ingredient. We know how to manipulate the physical world, but now we've got to learn how to do it in a more unbelievable way, with your own mind. See, we're doing it now. We got laptops, and we find out that, wow, this stuff goes right through the air. It's like Wi-Fi. That's what telepathy is, friends. And then there's something beyond telepathy, and that is the power of your mind to create the surroundings and the environment that you need to live in. You see, you look at the world and it's a beautiful place. You see, you go down to this little brook and there's some beautiful trees in the stream and the deer's coming down there to drink, and it's just wonderful, right? And we didn't make all this, right? We didn't make all this. But wait. Look over there. You see that little grove of trees? Isn't that amazing? You can take those trees, and cut them down and make a cabin. This is going to be your home. And you're going to make it the way you want. But how do you do that? Those trees are big. You don't have any way to cut them down. Oh, look. Your Father in heaven provided an elephant. Now, the elephant is large. And he's got this flat spot right on his head where he can just walk up to a tree and push it over. And then he can stick those ivory tusks, made out of ivory. They're very strong as metal. And slip those ivory tusks right under those logs and put his trunk around it and hold on to it and bring them logs back and unload them right there in the yard for you to make this beautiful home. You see? And then, you need transportation. So our Father in heaven gave us horses, and we're able to ride them, or camels. If we're going to go through the desert, we need lots of, it's going to be real hot, and there's not going to be a lot of water, so camels can go long distances in deserts, and we can ride them, and everything's provided for us. Well, you see, a lot of you, maybe you've watched that movie, that series years ago was on television called Star Trek. And there was one episode where Captain Kirk was sent down on this planet, and there was this sort of dinosaur-type creature that had some kind of intelligence, I guess. And they were going to be fighting and to see who could win, right? Well, above them, beyond, Captain Kirk didn't know it, and the dinosaur didn't know it, but there was someone watching over them. In a sense, this is a little bit like what's going on here, friends. There's someone watching over us, and we're in a classroom, you see, and they just wanted to make sure that their project was working and it was growing in the proper way. And so, sure enough, even though this dinosaur-like creature was very, very ferocious and strong and mighty, powerful, Captain Kirk, with his wisdom, found that there was something provided for him right there on that planet that he could win this battle. He could overcome. He found dynamite, or materials to make dynamite. He found a cylinder to put a solid piece of diamond inside to shoot as a projectile, and he was able to make this a sort of missile out of the elements and the things that he found on the planet. And he made this crude missile, and he killed the great monster, you see. And those highly advanced beings that were watching over Captain Kirk, far more advanced than him, even though he had ships with, that could beam him up, right, and very advanced. But these highly more advanced beings were watching over him, making sure that their children were growing and advancing and learning how to conquer the monster. And so, friends, this is why we're here. This is why this little spot was chosen here in the galaxy, this little arm of the galaxy that's not really part of the rest of the galaxy, because you see it's sort of quarantined for those who will become the divine beings, who will lead the next revolution and go forward and create their own worlds and become children of the living God, friends. And here's where we've done all this classroom training, and we're about ready to go through the last test, friends. And that is, can you truly, willingly lay down your life and have faith and know that you are the master of your own domain, and nothing can take that away? Have faith, because your Father has given you the kingdom. Have faith and be strong, and know that He is there. He's with you. He will never forsake you. He loves you. And this journey is a most amazing, amazing thing that we're on. And let's rejoice in it. And let's pursue and go forward towards the prize, and stand firm in the faith in which you were called. And give this gospel to others that you see and help them along the path. They're your brothers and sisters. Feed them, clothe them, heal them. Cast out the demons among them. Give them education and truth. And it's all going to be okay. We're almost there, friends. We're almost there. It is a wonderful and amazing world. And we are not just subject willy-nilly to everything that's happening. We are the ones that have the dominion over and the say over what's about to happen. We need to take control of our country. We need to take control of our lives. And we need to have faith. You need to start imagining in your mind what you really want. Purpose it. Will it. And then, with your own voice, command it. Because you are the commander. You are the heir of all this and more. It is an amazing thing, friends. So, friends, I'm going to go ahead and close it there for today. But this is a series, and of course tomorrow this will be continued. So we'll see you guys again tomorrow. You guys have a great day. Signing out.